Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. Thanks for joining me. Please click the thumbs up and the share and all that good stuff. So this first story is definitely a rough one to report. And by the way, I think Jill Stein, Dr. Jill Stein, is joining me. We had confirmed for today, but it's possible she's gotten tied up with things. Anyway, if she does show up, I will bring her on rather quickly once she's here. But anyway, I have plenty of news for you either way. So this first story is a tough one to report. Obviously, it's many of you have heard of Gonzalo Lira. He is Chilean and American. He has passports for both, and he lived in Ukraine or lives in Ukraine, and I guess. And so many people have been attentive to his situation. He had been arrested several months ago by the SBU, the Ukrainian police, and he was arrested quite obviously for posting videos that didn't agree with Ukraine's propaganda. So he, it's like, and again, like some people are like, I didn't like that he said this thing, or he used to do that thing, or he's this or that. And it's like, it doesn't really matter. The point is he was posting videos and then he was arrested for posting those videos. So I think whether you agree with every word he ever said, and I haven't even watched that much of him, I don't know most of what he said, but it doesn't really matter. The point is this was someone speaking on video and they were arrested in Ukraine, and now we know from his videos and tweets that he was also tortured while he was there. So I'm going to walk you through some of this. He, just a couple of days ago, he tweeted that he had gotten out of prison, and he apparently had been out for a month, but he didn't post publicly because he was deciding what he wanted to do. He didn't want to, his location to be known and stuff like that. So he didn't post. So he'd been out for a month, but he was in prison for over 2 months in Ukraine. And he details in both his videos and a Twitter thread how he was tortured while he was there. And he also announces, this is on July 31st, a couple of days ago, 3 days ago, 3.5 days ago, that he was about to cross the Hungarian border. And the YouTube videos show him on the side of the road is where he taped it, is where he filmed it. And he says he's going to cross into Hungary to try and avoid his trial, basically. And he very carefully kind of describes it all. He says, right now, I'm about to try and get out of Ukraine. Either I'll cross the border and make it safely and ask for refugee status, ask for asylum, or I'll be disappeared by the Kiev regime. He says he was arrested back on May 1st for his YouTube videos. And in the indictment, he says, which he shows the full indictment, he says they make it very clear that it was because of his videos, because he gave the full history of the conflict in Ukraine, the proxy war in Ukraine. And even in the indictment, they make it clear that's why they're arresting him, is for saying those things. Now, they did all these things like accuse him of being a Russian agent and all that shit, but that's what they do to anybody who, I've been accused of being a Russian agent. Anybody who speaks the truth is then called a Russian agent. Jill Stein, who might be joining us later, has been called a Russian agent many times. So anyway, he's put into prison. He says he was beaten and tortured by fellow prisoners, but they were doing it at the behest of the guards who were working for higher ups. And the reason the prisoners were doing it is because that's how it works in their system. They don't want you to be able to say the guards beat me or tortured me. So they basically pay the prisoners to do the beating and torture. And I assume in a prison that involves, so many Nazis and others, it probably wasn't tough to find that. So he details all of what's going on with him. He says that they tortured him in many ways. including sleep deprivation, stress positions, all of that shit, mainly to get money from him because they went through all of his bank accounts and his computers and found out that he had, he doesn't give the number, but a certain amount of money. So they wanted $70,000 from him. Eventually, he, after over 30 hours of torture and a broken rib and everything, he agrees to give them the money. Anyway, he posts his video July 31st and says he's about to try and get into Hungary for asylum. And that is the last anyone's heard of him. Now, people have on good information, they have the understanding that he was arrested by Kiev, by the Ukraine regime. And he believes, as he says multiple times in the video, that he would, it was guaranteed that he would get 5 to 8 years of hard labor and that he would, in his belief, die in prison because he's in his 50s, not in good health, and has a heart condition. But beyond all of this, to me, perhaps as an American, the most disgusting thing, and as I remind everybody, he's an American citizen as well as a Chilean citizen. To me, what's perhaps most disgusting is that the U.S. government is doing nothing about this. They won't even comment on it. They don't care. They seem to have not a care in the world about a journalist or even just a citizen. I know they deny he's a journalist because posting on YouTube doesn't count as journalism. Apparently you have to work for a corporate media to count as a journalist. You have to do the good propaganda of corporate media, and then you count as a journalist. But as a citizen of any kind, it's like we should not be okay with our government just ignoring that citizen as we fight a proxy war in Ukraine, as Ukraine is indebted to us over $100 billion. And the U.S. government won't even speak up for this journalist, Gonzalo Lira. So I wanted to give you guys that update. It's been 3 or 4 days and no one's heard anything from him yet. But many people are reporting that he was captured by Ukraine. And as he said in his, video explanation and everything else, that he would absolutely be found guilty. And they eventually let him out on bail. That's why he was out. So he was out on bail and he decided to try and flee because he was told by many people with inside knowledge that there was no real trial that was going to happen. Kind of like if Julian Assange is extradited to the United States, there's not going to be any real trial that happens here. It's going to be a banana, a banana republic, kangaroo court. There's going to be a lot of kangaroos and bananas involved. And very similar, I think, in Gonzalo's case. So I hope that, as he says in the end of his video, as Gonzalo Lira says at the end of his video, the only thing that he can think for people to do if he is disappeared is for everybody to raise a ruckus, talk about it, make a big deal about it, keep demanding that the administration, that the U.S. actually respond to this and speak to it. At minimum, really, they should be making sure that he's free. But even short of that, at least they'll have to answer for themselves. So everybody keep paying attention to that and keep talking about it and keep raising that story because it is an important one. And, again, it shouldn't matter whether you agree with every word someone says as to whether you think they should be free for simply making videos. It's just disgusting and insane. All right, I want to move on to our distinguished guest. I'm excited to have here. And by the way, everybody, please click thumbs up, click subscribe, click share. This is streaming free on a lot of platforms, so I rely on you guys to do that. Please take a second to definitely click follow at rumble.com/Lee Camp. We're over 50,000. Thank you for helping me get there. Let's keep growing it. And yeah. All right. Well, let's get to it. So, I consider her a friend. I've been lucky to interview her many times. And now she has run for president more than once, at least, somewhere between 2 and 6 times. No, 2 times. And always speaking the truth and she is now the campaign manager for Cornel West, who is one of the candidates aiming for the Green Party nomination. And please welcome Dr. Jill Stein.
Awesome to be here. Thanks so much, Lee. Thanks for speaking truth to power. Thanks for the heads up about what's going on with Gonzalo Lira, which really speaks volumes about the crisis of our democracy, freedom of the press, our right to protest, and the war machine that's taken over, and the democracy that does not exist in Ukraine, and the crisis that's going on there as we throw over $100 billion at Ukraine, and with the help of the Democrats, ensure that there will be no oversight, in this latest vote in Congress about whether there would be an inspector general to oversee the spending of that money. Thank you, Democrats, for, ensuring that this money will continue to just be given away.
Yeah, they fought to make sure there would be no audit.
No audit of the money going to Ukraine, and that goes hand in hand with their inability to do an audit like times 6. Just
in the Pentagon,
part of the Pentagon. So we're just throwing money, and weapons wherever they may have to go. Whatever black market they're going down, however they're being sold, at a profit, however they're finding their way into, all sorts of nefarious hands. It's like it's just more profits for the war contractors who are calling the shots as ever. And again, underscoring why it is that we need a big fight, a big political fight here that can really call out, this empire for all it's worth, and mobilize the rebellion that's already going on to, put an end to empire abroad and the devastation that creates around the world and here at home, especially. So,
as long as we're on the topic, what do you see happening in Ukraine? What in God's name are we doing there, and how long is this going to last? What do you see as the end game for this?
Yeah, I mean, the only feasible end game is a ceasefire and negotiations. There's no rocket science here at all about how you end war. You don't end war with more war or with more weapons and with more ultimatums and ever more powerful weapons that are ever extending this war, to where the attacks now inside of Russia and on Moscow are absolutely routine. And if you were looking to create a nuclear war and World War III, I think, the Biden administration is doing a really good job of running up to that war. So, they have to be called out, and that's why, it's really important for us to have alternative people-powered politics that's fighting strong in this election. How can you call it a lesser evil when the Democrats are leading the charge here in Ukraine and, towards nuclear confrontation and just ever worsening escalation of this war. So we need a ceasefire. We need diplomacy. We need respect for international law. And we need to recognize this war didn't just start in February of 2022. Arguably, it began in 2014 with the U.S.-supported coup, which is a disaster. Thank you, Victoria Nuland, who, of course, has been reappointed by Democrats and Republicans alike to do her, her handiwork. And the Democrats are really leading the charge right now on war. Look at what the Progressive Caucus did, with their letter, their big letter that was going to say, hey, remember, there is such a thing as diplomacy negotiations. Oh my God, they had to withdraw it. It was so embarrassing and humiliating. They dared to mention that, so the Democrats are
a incredibly limp request for diplomacy had to be immediately withdrawn.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And it really speaks to the reality that the Democrats are not the lesser evil. And it's a real it's just outrageous to be subject to that propaganda that the Democrats are the lesser evil. Are they the lesser evil on nuclear weapons? Are they the lesser evil on an escalation towards nuclear war? Are they the lesser evil on censorship? The way they've been leading the charge, their treatment not only of Assange. Well, they've certainly continued Trump's treatment of Assange, but before that, Obama wasn't going to go there. Now Biden is leading the charge against Assange. And it's absolutely outrageous that Australia is now calling for protection of their citizen and to end the extradition process now.
You mean outrageous that the U.S. is ignoring those
It's
requests?
outrageous that the U.S. has ignored this now that that Australia is standing up to demand what they have a right to call for, which is that their citizens should be returned home to them. And, for Biden to actually it was Blinken who, made these outrageous comments about how Assange was basically a war criminal who had gotten, U.S. assets into trouble. That's absolutely not true. Assange was very responsible in how those were redacted, how the revelations were redacted, and that there has been absolutely no evidence. So what he said is completely false. It's just, you were talking about the kangaroo court that the Gonzalo Lira would be facing. Same thing, Julian Assange all the way through has faced a kangaroo court and totally concocted charges and accusations. This is all about silencing those who would hold the criminal war industry and the political parties that support it about holding their feet to the fire. If we can't hold them accountable, we don't have a democracy. If we don't have a free press, we don't have a democracy. So this fight is very important, and the larger context in which this presidential campaign is happening is extremely important. And it's going to fall to the Green Party, really, which is the one independent political party that has a national scope that can fight this at a national level and give the American people a fighting chance, both with regard to the utter wasting of our national resources, the endangerment of the entire world, including us in this outrageous war, and all the other issues that could be solved right now if only we had a political force that was working for us and not basically for war and Wall Street, which is what the two main parties are about. And forget, this propaganda that the Democrats are the lesser evil. They're clearly not. And what's going on in Ukraine is evidence of that. It's not rocket science about how we implement diplomacy in Ukraine. And the Minsk Accords were a very good start. And,
although they've now admitted that they never intended to abide by them. They just wanted to heavily arm Ukraine in the time they could buy.
Exactly. And you know what John Mersheimer said to your original question about what's going on here? What John Mersheimer, one of the leading experts on Ukraine and post-war dynamics, who's followed the Ukraine, Soviet Union, Russia, EU dynamics very closely all along the way. What he's, his explanation, and I think his most recent interview and public statement was that I think Aaron Mate was making the point, that this is like intentional malevolence on the part of the U.S. empire, and which it may well be. And the competing explanation is what Mersheimer said, which is no, it's just stupidity, and that there's not clear evidence to say it's one or the other, but it's unbelievably stupid, destructive, puts us all at risk. We cannot afford to have the war predators running the show, which is what they're doing and which is what's built into our political system now. These are the funders of our two major political parties. And the good thing is that people are clamoring for the alternatives now. For all kinds of reasons, like that 60% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. 40% of people who rent are severely economically stressed. Many are foregoing meals in order to meet their rent, let alone their health care. We don't have a world we can survive in right now. We need.
I assume
clamoring for it.
I assume all of these reasons are part of the reason that you've decided to again be involved in a presidential campaign, although this time not your own. Uh, you in your two runs, you were by the establishment, by the mainstream media. You were called every name in the book. You were Russian. You were a spoiler. You were. It's just amazing the amount of hatred and crap that is thrown at anybody that dare be outside of the two corporate parties. What advice can you give to Dr. West, who you're working with, as he faces this? And the first articles are already out calling him every name in the book. I think the first article by MSNBC said that Cornel West is a right winger at heart, and it's just insane.
And a threat to the Constitution, and and of course a spoiler. And who's leading the charge in this accusation that Cornel West is a spoiler? It's the old white guys, basically. It's the David Axelrods and the old Clinton crowd that are leading the charge. Why? Because it's their stranglehold on power that's being spoiled. Life is being spoiled for everybody else, for most people in this country and around the world. I mean, consider that the top 1% now has 30% of wealth. The bottom 50% in this country has 2% of wealth. 2% is spread out among 50 people. I mean, that really tells you what's going on and why
spread out among 50%. Yeah.
What's that?
You said 50 people, 50%. Yeah.
50%. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, it's 2% of America that has, let me say that the other way. It's 50% of America that is sharing 2% of wealth, and not getting by because, what is it? 87 million Americans do not have adequate health care or health insurance. You can look at any of the numbers. 15 million more people just got thrown off of Medicaid thanks to President Biden basically canceling the emergency coverage under the COVID emergency. 100 million that are swamped with medical debt, 43 million who are basically, indentured servants for life with student debt. The rules of the game are working out really well if you're in the top 5-10%. But beyond that, people are being thrown over the cliff. And the climate is boiling over right now. We don't have time to spare. 170 million people were subjected to severe heat advisories last week. It was the warmest July on record. The Colorado River is drying up. Why does that matter? Because it supplies California agriculture that provides 50% of the fruits and vegetables for the nation. And this is like within a year or two of basically shutting down because the water can no longer get into the pipes in Lake Mead or whatever it's called, where the Colorado River basically is dammed up to provide electricity, but also so that the water can be allotted out. Well, pretty soon it's not going to make it over the starting gate to even trickle down the Colorado River. So American agriculture is in big trouble. The last time there was a big heat wave in Europe, the figures just came out on this. This was last year, that heat wave, and the health data, the public health data was just crunched. And what comes down to is that 61 million people died, premature deaths, 61 million in the last heat wave, which was small potatoes compared to the current heat waves that are basically going on all over the world. And what does our dear president do, who's basically abandoned his promises on the climate? He calls for cooling centers, instead of declaring a climate emergency. If this isn't an emergency, what is that emergency? And he opens the floodgates for more fossil fuels to be extracted from public lands and public waters. That bill that he says is his great claim to fame, that he's running on, the Inflation Reduction Act, that's really a fossil fuels first act. And it requires that 60 million acres of offshore waters and 2 million acres of public lands be excavated every year, that they be added to the pillage on behalf of their fossil fuel friends before any major works can be undertaken for renewable energy. It's just, it's outrageous. And that's why, as bad as the picture is right now for people and the planet and peace, we're all going down the tubes here together. But as bad as that is, what's very exciting is that people are in a state of rebellion right now. We're not only seeing that in the labor strikes, in people in the street mobilizing, for example, tenant unions and for Tenants' Bill of Rights. In every area, people are, really rising up, and this has been going on for quite a while. And people are finally throwing in the towel on the political parties. And the numbers there are extremely encouraging too, whereby half of all Americans now identify as independents. The number that identify as Democrats and Republicans is about 25%. And most people, well, it's a plurality right now that say they will seriously consider voting third party in the coming election. So, I guess
and the percentage of Americans that now say they have full faith and trust in the mainstream media is I don't remember the number, but it's rather small, definitely under 50%.
And, I mean, it's in the toilet. It's around, I think, 14%.
Yeah, something like that. I was thinking, and the article, one of the articles I saw about it, might have been New York Times, was saying, what a horrifying thing this is. And I was thinking, oh, this is wonderful. People are finally noticing the propaganda being pushed on all their TV channels.
Exactly. And that's why, people shouldn't get bent out of shape about being smeared by mainstream media, because if you're smeared by, an institution that people consider public enemy number one or maybe number two, that's not such a bad thing, to be an enemy of the public enemy. Who cares? You're like, we're listening to old white guys whine, basically, David Axelrod and company.
Are you calling Joe Biden old?
Well, I'm referring to his colleagues who are smearing us for challenging them. Who cares? Let them, because people aren't in their camp and they're not being, they're not going brain dead the way they used to just like roll over with a smear from mainstream media. Now it's like, who cares? Who even notices?
What do you feel that you during your runs, or Cornel West or whoever the Green Party nominee may be, can and could achieve, even if they don't win the presidency? Now, I know the Green Party will definitely win next time, but if the Green Party doesn't win, what can still be achieved?
Yeah. So, I don't rule it out. These are strange times, but, as a baseline, look at 2016. We completely changed the progressive agenda. Now, the Democrats only give it lip service. They won't really do they won't even talk about getting rid of fossil fuels, let alone really doing a Green New Deal, which requires, the Green Party's Green New Deal says we're done with fossil fuels in 10 years. We're done. They're out. They're gone, which is all that the climate really cares about. The climate doesn't care how much renewable energy you have or how many, electric vehicles you have. They care about the fossil fuels that are continuing to poison them. So we laid out that, Ralph Nader back in the year 2000 as a Green Party candidate put Medicare for all on the map. Our 2012 campaign put student debt, the abolition of student debt on the map, much to John Oliver's chagrin, as John Oliver, attempted to apologize for his, his cronies. We put that stuff on the map that has really changed political dynamics, and reparations, for example, for Indigenous and actually for African American and Indigenous people in our reparations proposals. So, these issues haven't gone away. They've only gotten entrenched and stronger, and the Democrats continue to just give them maybe a little bit of lip service here and there. So I think we strengthen the fight on the issues. We stand up for working people. And labor is beginning to break away. If you look at what happened with the Railroad Workers Union, even before the Democrats shot them down, and prohibited them from running a strike against, the horrific industry that is the most profitable industry in all of the US and can't spend even 1% of their 50 billion in profits last year, whatever it was enormous. The Railroad Workers Union was calling for independent politics, aside from, other major solutions, not just for their own, family leave and so on, and days off and protection on the job. They're calling for that for everybody, and we're seeing unions do that, really stand up in a much bigger way. And they are also calling for an independent political vehicle for people, not just to fall in line with the Democratic Party that has betrayed working people for decades. How many times have the Democrats had a congressional majority as well as the presidency that they could have passed, the Employee Free Choice Act and made it far easier to establish unions? They've consistently, thrown working people under the bus here. And I think it's gotten to the point where people can't ignore that anymore. And by running that in a political campaign, we help empower those issues. I think we also help cross-link the issues. So, I would like to see all those movements come out stronger, and understand that independent politics is really their only hope. Because if you continue to be subservient to the powers that are abusing you, you're going nowhere, no matter what kind of lip service they might give you in a campaign. But President Biden has a real track record right now. So there's no excuse to just only listen to what he says. And he's not even saying it, and the idiot Democrats, the AOCs and so on, and even, Bernie's leading the charge to just sheepdog people back into the Democratic Party. They are endorsing Biden without extracting any kind of consent.
I know. AOC jumped, a year in advance, over a year in advance, jumped the gun to proudly state she was endorsing Biden rather than pressuring him in any way to stand for anything in his next run. Before I run out of time with you, I wanted to at least mention this event we have coming up on Saturday. It is a fundraiser for the Green Party, and I will be performing stand-up comedy, a new stand-up comedy set via Zoom. And why should people attend this coming Saturday, the Green Party fundraiser, other than the fact that I'm awesome? I mean, of course, but there's plenty of other things going on with the Green Party right now as well.
Yeah, well, no, I'd say everybody needs a really good laugh right now about the things that we can count on Lee to talk about. So I'd say really come and see our world in the perspective it deserves to be discussed in. So come for that, just for your own mental health. You need to come to that, but also for your own mental health. We need a fighting chance in the upcoming election and just the world that we're dealing with right now, so I'd say come and connect and become part of this fight. We're in the process right now of creating a 50-state ballot drive, and we badly need people to help lead the charge on that. And, so there's all kinds of stuff you can do to make this happen, but come to the convention, but especially come to that fundraiser and that talk for your political mental health. It's really important to be there.
Just real quick, in closing, how close is the Green Party to getting on every ballot? How tough is that? And you were able to get on most of them, right?
We were on in 47. 47 out of the 50.
I was going to say 57. That's impressive. But
yes.
47. Okay. So,
right.
Almost the full 50.
We think we can do 50. We're starting much earlier this year and with a lot more volunteers and people on the ground. And we know a lot more about it. We're also prepared for the dirty tricks that the Democrats will certainly do because they have done some pretty outrageous things. They will call you up if you sign a petition. They will call you up and pretend to be the Green Party and tell you to unsign your petition. And,
yeah.
they'll do everything. They'll take us to court. They're going to do all the rest. But that's really good that they're that scared and that they're that desperate. So I'd say
That's right. They sent out, I can't remember which time this was. They sent out texts to people saying, you've signed this petition. You're risking, the Democrats' election chances. Do you want to do that?
they actually called
Yeah.
Tony Ndege, who was the head of the Green Party's ballot drive in North Carolina. They called him up pretending to be the Green Party, telling him that the Green Party wanted him to take his name off the.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really, it's wild. It's crazy.
Corruption knows no bounds. Yeah.
It does. And take it as a good sign that they are running scared. They know their days are numbered. That is a sign of our strength. And in the words of Alice Walker, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. Don't let the Democrats talk you into hopelessness and powerlessness. We do have the power. It's about getting organized and demanding it so that we can have, we can survive, let alone thrive. We should be doing both. We have the resources to do that. It's all about taking the power back. So come and make it happen.
Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Jill Stein, and I will see you via Zoom on the fundraiser Saturday. And thanks a lot. Keep up the fight.
Looking forward to it.
Bye. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. Another excellent interview. She's always speaking truth. Doesn't back down. Doesn't slow up. Here is, I'll show you on the screen, the fundraiser this coming Saturday, the Green Party Annual National Celebration and Fundraiser with some comedian. I don't know, some no-name comedian is going to be performing there. But I think there are tickets left, although not that many maybe. But so check that out. It's at gp.org. And then the rest of the link is hard to say. Fundraiser _with_Lee_camp. But I think if you just Google Green Party Fundraiser Lee Camp, I think you find it, or August 5th, Green Party Fundraiser, you should find it. So I hope you will join us there. If you'd like to see my new stand-up comedy set, about 45 minutes I'm going to be doing, and it'll be my first global Zoom comedy show. So I hope you join us. Why not? But I should also remind you that I, along with supporting a lot of what they're doing, I'm also running a rock that I found in my yard for president. And I think he really, like, he's never endorsed any of the wars the U.S. has done. He's never been connected to any corporate money. He's just a real pure candidate. He's not going to be any of this garbage you get from the corporate parties. And so, maybe whoever becomes the Green Party nominee, we can talk them into taking the Yard Rock as a vice president chance. But anyway, that's at yardrock2024.com, and 50% of all the merge proceeds go to eliminate medical debt for struggling Americans. We've already eliminated $65,800 of medical debt for struggling Americans. That part's not a joke at all. So $65,000 of medical debt erased for struggling Americans. So check that out. That's at yardrock2024.com. And there's Redacted Tonight t-shirts there as well, because why not? Why not rub it in to people that Redacted Tonight has been redacted from our airwaves. All right, moving on. I want to show you another quick video from this is from Climate Defiance, but they're doing such a great job of interrupting our corrupted officials with the truth about the climate crisis that as long as they keep putting out videos and keep interrupting these officials, I'm going to keep bringing them, because for no other reason. I mean, for many other reasons, but even if just because I enjoy watching it. But really, there are many other reasons. This is what we should all be doing. This is how every corrupt official should have their meetings, and they're talking. So they're interrupting again. This is the second time they're interrupting the Commerce Secretary, Biden's Commerce Secretary.
Gina, get off it, put the youth over profit. Gina, get off it, put the youth over profit.
She said what bank?
You can be encouraging these young people to pursue a lifelong career in public service when the bank that you are a board member of is contributing to the destruction of our future and lowers the standard of living for Americans.
What bank?
The Export-Import Bank of the U.S. 100 million went to the expansion of an oil refinery in Indonesia. You just gave 400 million in revolving credit to traffic Europe for the buying and selling of natural gas. How can you promise us a future, a career?
Let me finish my answer and I'll answer your question. Or do
I'm
you have
actually
a
gonna
question?
escort you out.
Gina, get off it. Put the youth over profit. Gina, get off it. Put the youth over profit. Gina, get off it. Put the youth over profit.
You have two of our members arrested because we asked you to speak on climate change.
Just telling you guys.
And you're putting
So,
these
it
youths in
was.
jail.
Please tell your board members to stop funding fossil fuels. Americans are choking on wildfire smoke. They are collapsing from the extreme heat. And you are telling us that
If
we
you
have
are
a
a
future
future
ahead of us?
representative,
We need clean air, not another billionaire.
by the way, we're climate scientists and we're hiring interns.
Gina, get off it. Put the youth over profit.
She said what bank?
I do love that she said, "What bank am I on the board of?" Oh, the Bank of Import Export. Oh, that. Okay, yeah. That's right. Oh, sorry. I was hoping you wouldn't know, but instead you did. What bank? I'm not on the board of that bank. That's right. We did fund massive oil projects. I just said, slipped my mind. I'm on so many boards. My corruption is just so it's a flood of corruption, and so sometimes I can't keep track of what really's got my schedule so crazy that I don't know. But this is the second time that they've shut down her meetings. Her meetings or her speeches, and yes, this is fucking what should happen. They should, as long as they're going to continue to allow the deals and the fossil fuel deals and the funding of those deals and the deforestation and the destruction of our environment and our world at every level, as long as that's going to go on, this should go on at minimum. Their meetings should be interrupted. Their speeches should be interrupted. It should not be just okay for them to exist casually in our society without being interrupted. Like this is exactly how it should work. And you heard the woman say, I'm actually going to escort you out. And then, but they refuse to go without being dragged. And at most of these things, they're not prepared to drag you out. So if you choose to have your voice heard on something like climate crisis, then generally their meeting will be, they will ultimately walk out because they can't actually answer the questions. They can't actually respond to them. They have no answer for them. Their answer is that they're getting very rich and they're making other people very rich. And they would like to continue to get very rich and make other people very rich. That is their true answer. They're not going to give that answer. So instead they sit there and they go, what bank? I don't know. What is a bank? What really is a bank? What I don't even know. What does the word fossil fuel even mean? Fossil fuel. I don't get it. It's just a weird word. They have no answers. So because they can't answer, they then tell you should sit down and shut up. Sometimes they say things like, if you email me that question, I will respond. Oh, will you? Will you? Will you respond if we email this to you? Yeah, I don't think you will. I don't think you'll respond at all. I think you'll send some sort of auto response, which basically says, fuck off. I can ignore you. And here I am doing it. It'll be an auto email that if you read between the lines says, here, this is me ignoring you. And anyway, this is Climate Defiance. Again, climatedefiance.org. They are always growing, always looking for new people. And I have no connection to them. They just seem to be doing really good work. And I interviewed their co-founder, Riley Hott, a couple of weeks ago. So you can go check out that interview if you'd like at rumble.com/Lee Camp. And now I'm going to get into one more important story. But I'm going to do that at rumble.com/Lee Camp. The next story is going to be Seymour Hersh's new revelations about what is actually happening in Ukraine. I did not get into these details with Dr. Jill Stein. So these are important details from one of the best known journalists in America who it can no longer be published by mainstream media because he's not giving the mainstream media propaganda. But so Seymour Hersh's article, I'll be covering that at rumble.com/Lee Camp. Join me over there, rumble.com/Lee Camp. It's free to watch over there. And yeah, come, let's do it. Let's just, you know what? Just do it. Just don't even think about it. Just come and enjoy the free video, rumble.com/Lee Camp. And while you're there,